Hello everyone. Thank you all so much for watching this three-card tarot spread for Suga, aka Min Yoongi from BTS. This is a love life tarot card reading, and I'm just going to pull three cards, past, present, and future, from the major and minor arcana Rider-Waite, the original tarot deck here. And let's see what happens. And as I shuffle these cards over his image, I'm thinking up his past, present, and future relationships here, his love life. I'm just trying to get a sense as to what these cards can reveal and use them as a kind of a conduit. And let's see what we reveal here. And this is the past. And as I shuffle, I'm just sort of asking myself what feels like it stands out, present, and finally we're going to just pull the future card when it wants to reveal itself. Okay, let's see what we have. Okay, for the past, we have the moon in reverse. He's come to some sort of realization. All right, let's not get ahead of myself. This is interesting. The world reversed and the hermit. Fascinating. Immediately I have to just kind of put my initial spin on it, and I can't help but draw um, quite obvious conclusions here. For me, the moon in reverse here is showing some realizations of how, um, let's say, that he had an idea, he was idealistic in terms of his relationships, and it didn't work out, and he kind of came to some sort of realizations here as to why that was a flight of fancy. It was idealistic. It wasn't a realistic relationship. And looking back, he now sees the error in his ways, and it led him to, presently in his life at the moment, the world being upside down here. I'm just going to put my initial spin on it before I go over this whole thing and reiterate it in a way that, a secondary kind of interpretation. But my initial thoughts and feelings here, my intuition is telling me that at present, he's exploring an aspect of himself that is quite masculine. He's exploring, um, he's exploring all things Jupiterian, I would say, in palmistry. He's exploring his ego, his ambition, his sense of pride, his sense of self-worth, his his confidence. He's analyzing himself at this time. He's really turned in on himself, and he's really exploring those male, masculine sort of qualities at this time. And part of the reason why I say that is because we see here the world as all things divine and feminine in that, and it's reversed. And I feel there's a looking within here that is, in some way, he's rejecting those innate feminine qualities, a lot of those qualities that in fact are in fact things that everyone has fallen in love with him about. So he's kind of rejecting a lot of his self at the moment, at this time, and he's looking within to explore those areas of himself that he may well have neglected in the past. So this kind of realization, these mistakes that he's made, he's this avoidance, this coping mechanism, this escapism through um, devices, satiating the physical needs, hasn't served him well, and he's come to some sort of realization. He's looking within, and this has quite obviously led us to isolating, self-isolation, reflection, introspection, self-analysis, and a sense of um, actually spiritual growth. So, in terms of relationships, I've not really mentioned that much about relationships in this spread here because in some way it's not actually that relevant. It hasn't worked for him, and in order for him to love another, he needs to love himself. And I kind of see here that there's a real feeling of self-love, self-growth, self-development. His relationship with himself is more important than another at this time. And before he can have a relationship with someone else, he's got some work to do. These are my initial thoughts here when I look at this three-card spread. He's made errors. He's now stuck. And in order to find answers, he's looking within. I get the feeling that Sugar is not available at this time emotionally. There's been some instability, and now he's there's a feeling of stagnation, and there's a potential here for a real feeling of others potentially being quite harmful in his life at the moment, deception, um, and trickery. And I think as well as that, he's very aware of his own sense of tricking himself, deceiving himself, and himself getting the better of himself almost. This is the need for that introspection. He's potentially avoiding those who might do him harm and himself. Now, I'm going to give a secondary kind of interpretation here that's much more relationship related because the interpretation that I've just provided is something that I've just felt come to me, and actually, it's not all that relationship related. And I think there's a good reason for that. I think that's because he, at this time, is just not that available. Now then, this secondary interpretation is much more geared around his relationship. I'm just going to try to interpret this through the the world, the conduit, the idea, the feeling of relationships. Now, the reversed moon here, it could be that he came to the realization that someone was in fact deceitful present in his life. There was a realization that someone who was not as he thought they were, there was a realization they were actually someone else entirely, and he kind of awoke from a dream. A nightmare became his reality in that way. There was someone in his life who tricked him, ultimately for quite some time, and it really, really hurt him. Now, I mentioned stagnation when it came to the world. In terms of a present circumstance, that could be that, in fact, if he is in a relationship at this time, he feels like it's not going anywhere, that it's kind of a dead end. He's stuck in a rut, and there's a feeling here of not being able to move on from where he is in that relationship. Maybe there's an issue that they can't get past, he can't get past, she can't, he can't, whatever. Maybe it's that he feels like he can't get away from this relationship. There's some feeling of fixation, as in being stuck and not being able to move at this time in terms of relationships. And that's the present here. And in terms of relationships, that's probably the best way to read this card. Now, the Hermit could mean exactly what I've mentioned earlier, in fact, that there has been a period of great hurt, and it's taken a long time to sort of self-heal, reflect, and a time of introspective analyzing in order to really sort of learn about the self and learn from those mistakes and move on in a more positive way in a new relationship. It also could mean that his future relationship is going to be someone that is very grounded, very supporting, very wise, and it will be a very slow growing relationship. It won't be wild, it won't be explosive, and a roller coaster ride of emotions. It'll be a slow growing and a very healthy, stable friendship that will grow and emerge into something that is that really stands the test of time. And that makes sense. That really makes sense. Being that this kind of relationship interpretation of what we see in the moon reversed is that he's been deceived. that his whole world was turned on its head as a result, and that's the present at this time. It shows you, it literally shows you from one to the next how he awoke from a dream. His reality became a living nightmare. His world became turned on its head, and he's just become a recluse. You know, you can't get any clearer here. And so I feel as though actually for in terms of the future, I don't feel that he's potentially ready at this time. If he is in a relationship at the moment, um, it looks like one of two things. Either he's going to break away and find a way to move away from this stagnated relationship or feeling, and it will grow into something healthy, or he will meet someone new and they are a wise and supportive, slow growing, um, a friendship that grows into, blossoms into longevity and a fully committed, stable, happy, secure relationship. So that's my three card tarot spread for Sugar's love life. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you all so much for watching. Please do subscribe and consider becoming a member on this channel. Thank you all so much, and I will see you on the next one.